and in Indian astronomy it is called Lady Arundhati. Arundhati, okay, Vasishta's wife. Okay. Now comes to Mahabharata. So this is where my journey started when Sarveshji was explaining. Long time ago, some 25 plus years ago, which means many of you were not born. Okay. I was reading the Mahabharata text. Now I know some of you are also reading it. And I was actually, see this is 30 years or so, and I wanted to see where is Bhagavad Gita in Mahabharata. Okay, so I went to the library in Canada, you know, in Bhishma Parva I opened, I know it's in Bhishma Parva, but which chapters? And before I could go to the Bhagavad Gita, which is, anyone knows, 23rd Adhyay of Bhishma Parva is that Bhagavad Gita where it begins. But the first chapter, I didn't know, so I started with the first chapter. Let's see if it looks like Bhagavad Gita. And the first chapter, second chapter and third chapter, you know what, it was so fascinating, I forgot everything else about Bhagavad Gita. Why I was even there. Because suddenly, this is a Vyasadeva, the writer of Mahabharata, and everyone knows the character Dhritarashtra, the blind king. Yeah, very good. So he goes to that blind king, and the war is ready to begin the next day. And he says, my dear king, this is all going to get destroyed. You know? And I don't know if you know the story, but the king is very diplomatic. You know, he thinks he has 11 units of army on his side, and the Pandavas have only 7 units of army on the other side. Akshayani, right? So therefore he says, more than likely we are going to win. So he's always playing that game, you know, a diplomatic game. And he says, well, my son doesn't listen to me. Duryodhana doesn't listen to me. And Vasudeva says, that's fine. He makes a good attempt to see if the war can be stopped. But he says, my dear king, you know, look, I don't see good signs. Lots of things I am seeing here. But you know what? Time is the destroyer of everything. But please don't worry. I am going to document this history. Now he doesn't use the word history. Itihasa. So that people in future can benefit from this. They can learn from the mistakes possibly you guys are doing, okay, but something more. And in order that we can also know when exactly it possibly happened, so that we get the context of a time, place, circumstances, something like this. For example, you know the time of Ben Franklin? Everyone knows Ben Franklin here? No? You have to study that, right? Benjamin Franklin, right? So a few hundred years ago. Now if you meet Ben Franklin today and you tell him, you know what? My last vacation, I went to London. So we went to London today, and after 3 days we came back to Atlanta or whichever city it is. And Ben Franklin will go crazy. He said, what? From here you went to London, enjoyed London and came back in 3 days? How is that possible? Do you know why? Why Ben Franklin? There were no aeroplanes. There were no aeroplanes, right? Something like this. So so the writer of Mahabharata is saying, I am going to write the information of this time when the war is taking place in such a way, which is the time of Krishna, that people in the future will be able to know when exactly it happened. So now back to that panhandle in the sky and the Vasishta and Arundhati. If tonight, if you choose not to play kabaddi, you may be able to do it, you know. So Arundhati Vasishta would be up, and if somebody has a binocular, you know, we can see it. Even people with a good eyesight can see it. So the way you see that, those stars, they come in the north, okay? The northeast, they rise in the northeast, they go in the north direction around the pole star like this, and then they set in the northwest, okay? And you can see that in simulation or actually in the sky. Today if you see it, now pay attention, just like that example that I gave you, imagine a number, multiply by 2 and so on. If you today see it, today you see that, tonight, okay? It will be there, by the time you are out, it will be there up in the sky, right above. You will find the star Vasishta, the big star, the middle, you know, the handle, the middle star, that star is there, and the small star is behind it, you know, it's falling. So Vasishta is walking, like it's coming like this, Vasishta is walking around the North Pole is there, looking in the north direction, and Arundhati is following behind. That is the scenario today. That is the scenario if you go back 1,000 years. That is the scenario if you go back 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years. You say, yeah, why are you boring us with that information? Stars are almost fixed, right? But do you know something interesting? Vyasa, the author of Mahabharata, writes in that book, Bhishma Parva, 2nd chapter, verse number 31. Everyone knows how to say Bhagavad Gita, right? This goes just like that. Yachaisha Visruta Rajas Trailoke Sadhu Sammata Arundhati Taya Pesha Vashishta Prushtata Pruta. Vyasadeva is saying at the time of Mahabharata war, now he's saying many things, but one of these things, he's saying that Arundhati is walking ahead of Vashishta. But today that is not the case.
Because it's star shift.
Because of
Star shift over time.
star shift over time. Absolutely. Proper motion, also the pole star changes. So we're not going to why that happens, okay? For that, what you have to do is, if you are curious, how many of you are now curious why that might have happened? So instead of Vashishta going ahead, Arundhati was going ahead at the time of Mahabharata war. You would have to read my book. Okay? Now, yeah, don't be scared. There is a good news to it. How many of you have a sleeping problem? The kids don't have a sleeping problems. Oh, you have a sleeping problem? But the grown-ups do, right? The parents do. Right?
Yeah.
Parents do, the moms do, they do a lot of work and right? If you start reading my book, okay, to all young kids also, but